is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Located around 1,600 kilometers off the coast of East Africa, the Seychelles is an ecological paradise. But as climate change is affecting every region around the world, small island developing states are among the most vulnerable to the impacts such as increased temperatures and sea level rise. And as a large ocean state, the people of the Seychelles depend on a healthy, thriving marine ecosystem. In March 2020, the small island of the Seychelles took a giant step in ocean conservation. As part of a groundbreaking debt conversion deal co-signed by the Nature Conservancy, the Seychelles committed to increase its marine protection from just 0.4% of its exclusive economic zone to 30%. Now, 410,000 square kilometers, an area larger than Germany, is safeguarded to encourage sustainable development and adapt to the effects of climate change. This week on the program, we're in the Seychelles exploring how climate change is affecting the nation, key vulnerabilities, adaptation measures, and how the island is defending its greatest resource, the ocean. I'm Beatrice Marshall. Welcome to Talk Africa. President Ramkalawan, thank you very much for your time. Climate change presents such unique challenges for small island nations, and considering that 80% of the infrastructure of the Seychelles is on the coastline, affected by soil erosion, affected by flooding, affected by the ravages of climate change, how prepared is your country in terms of capacity, in terms of resources to deal with climate change? How resilient is the Seychelles?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think, first of all, in order for people to understand the Seychelles in terms of climate change and why we are fighting for support, one has got to understand the geography. Around the main island of Mahé are granitic islands, the mountains of what was once Gondwanaland. So we have around 39 granitic islands, and the peak rises to 3,000 feet. But as you go out, you have coral islands, and these are only a couple of meters above sea level. So around the granitic islands, you have coastal erosion, and you have the majority of your people living around the coast. That's where the roads are, that's where the fishermen and others do their business. So coastal erosion around the main islands is a big issue. And with surges that are now becoming greater, we find that we are losing quite a bit of territory. So on the one hand, you have this issue. But as far as the coral islands are concerned, this is even worse, because we've started to see some of our islands changing their shape. And this is because the water, the sea, is reclaiming the sand that was once the islands. So in a sense, there is the strong possibility that some of these islands will simply disappear, because the dunes around, just above the beach, the dunes are being knocked by higher surges with the rise in sea level, and trees are starting to fall. So what is protecting those very islands are being destroyed. So yes, it's a big problem. And rise in sea level also means that when it rains, especially on the main islands around the capital, Mahé, you have a problem at high tide, because there's nowhere for the waters to go. So flooding, the possibilities of flooding, which again, became real only a month ago when the capital, Victoria, was flooded simply because heavy rains were interrupted by high tide. So there are those very delicate balances that we have to coordinate as a country. Whether we are prepared, the answer is we are trying our best, and one can never be prepared. I mean, it's just like when when we were hit by the tsunami after the earthquake in Indonesia, so far away, and yet Seychelles was affected.
So I want to talk about some of the protection that your country has, the islands have put in place, because around 2 years ago, though, the Seychelles designated around 30% of its exclusive economic zone as marine protection areas. Talk to me about that a little bit, and why that particular deal was needed.
Well, 30-30 is a vision. As you know, the planet is 70% ocean. And the vision was for us to be able to protect 30% of the world's oceans by the year 2030. Seychelles took this commitment seriously. And as we speak today, around 32% of our EEZ, which is 1.4 million square kilometers, is under total protection. And we took this seriously because, not only because of our geography, but also as our contribution to protecting the planet. We don't have planet B. We have only one planet. And if we mess it up, that's it for humanity. So the 32%, which we have already designated, and I can tell you that we will soon be designating more areas to total protection, is our contribution towards climate change, towards environmental issues. And in those areas, there are no activities that take place. They are totally protected. But more than this, Seychelles has also embarked on a program for us to map out our seagrass meadows. And why? Because, again, as you probably know, seagrass removes more carbon dioxide from the atmosphere than trees. So we're now talking about blue carbon. And if Seychelles, with all this, can play an important role, then I think, small as we are, we will have made a big contribution as far as mitigating all the effects that can affect our planet.
But your economic mainstay has mainly been tourism and the fisheries industry and the blue economy. This protection of the 30%, what impact has that had?
Well, in fact, it has helped people to understand that we are serious. And as well, today we're talking about long-haul flights and the effects on the ozone layer and taxes, higher taxes that are being put. But people still come to Seychelles because they see that even though we are far from anywhere, still we are serious as far as climate change is concerned and as far as protecting the environment is concerned. So the sea meadows being protected totally, the mangroves being protected, and we're even planting trees. So we are serious, and so tourism, we don't go for mass tourism, but the higher end of the scale. And so we want people to take us seriously. As far as tourism is concerned, it is the mainstay of our economy. But also as far as the fishing industry is concerned, we ensure that quotas are well respected. We've got the biggest agreement with the European Union as far as tuna fishing is concerned, but the quotas are strictly adhered to. And you will find that when you come to the Seychelles around November or end of October, already the tuna fishing vessels, the purse seiners will be in port because they've exhausted their quota and therefore they cannot go out to fish. So again, it's this delicate balance of protecting the environment, protecting the finite resources like fishing, and at the same time tourism, which again, as we saw with COVID, is here today, but overnight can disappear.
So you've talked about, just to come back to the Seychelles and its climate resilience and mitigation programs, you've talked about how you're concerned about the disappearance of some islands if the sea levels continue to rise, and you've talked about some programs that you've put in place. What can a nation like the Seychelles, a small island nation like the Seychelles, what can they teach the world?
Well, we can teach the world that we are, one, serious, and that we expect those that are destroying the planet to also become serious. If small as we are, we have already reached 32% of the protection of our ocean, and this is a target that is set for 2030. And already, since a couple of years back, we had already reached the 30%. So one, we are serious. Secondly, in the midst of this seriousness, we are contributing in saving the planet through the measures that we have taken, the protection of, for example, the seagrass meadows, blue carbon, and at the same time trying to go for sustainable sources of energy instead of fossil fuel. So Seychelles is showing the world that we are serious. And I think if the world were to become serious, and those countries that pledge or those countries that exploit in order for them to become richer, if they took the whole commitment seriously, we would save the planet.
President Ram Kamwala, thank you very much. Bernadette, thank you so much for joining us. Tourism has been a mainstay of the economy of the Seychelles. First of all, what is the role of tourism in the Seychelles and what role does it have for your economy?
Well, as you all know, tourism is the major pillar of our economy. It contributes towards 37% of our GDP. So it is, in a few words, our bread and butter. So it is very important for the nation, for the livelihood of our nation, that we continue to develop our tourism. But we have to do it in a very intelligent manner. We have to be able to find the right balance between continuing to develop the tourism, but like I say, in a sustainable manner without destroying what Mother Nature has generously given to us, which is our nature. I keep saying all the time, the wealth of our country is our green. This is in fact what we sell, because to be able to promote, to be able to attract visitors to our shore, to be able to develop our tourism, we need to go out there and promote. We need to go out there and market. We need to be able to sell our product. And our product for the Seychelles, like I say, it is our green. Well, we do have our blues as well, but our green constitute a very, very important part of this product. So this is why it is very, very important to have the right balance when we are developing our tourism in a very sustainable manner.
Yeah, talk to me about that balance. How are you creating the balance and how are you maintaining that balance?
Interestingly enough, as we all know, we're a very small nation. When we opened up our airport, when we opened up to tourism, at this point in time, we took the right decision not to go for mass tourism. Right from day one, we were very selective in the way we do business. It was not about quantity. We ensure that when we develop in terms of infrastructure, especially in terms of hotel accommodation, we have a cap where we know this is the maximum that the country can hold in a very sustainable manner. This is how we control. So no mass tourism right from day one. This is one point. But this is not enough. It is also very, very important, like I say, to explain to the people this wealth, this green, which I was talking about before, why we have to continue to preserve it. This is where we've taken a lot of, we've done a lot of initiatives in terms of projects, together with other government entities, but also with some national NGOs, non-government organizations. We also work on sensitizing, because this is also very important to make the people understand what's happening around the world. Everybody talks about global warming. We're talking about the rise in the sea level. And to go back again to what I do on a daily basis, which is selling our products, if tomorrow our product disappears, we will not have anything to sell.
Bernadette, thank you very much. Well, we're going to take a short break now, and when we come back, we'll have more on the conservation efforts of the Seychelles Islands. Stay with us. Welcome back to Talk Africa. Now this week, we're in the Seychelles, exploring how climate change is affecting the island and mitigation and adaptation measures being undertaken. Conservationist and environmentalist Nimal Shah will tell us more about this. Well, I'm now joined by Dr. Vimal Shah, environmentalist and conservationist. Dr. Shah, tell us in simple terms about the deal that was made by the Seychelles government and the Conservancy.
Yeah, so the deal was the Seychelles government owed creditors quite a lot of money. The creditors forgave a little bit, and then they said, okay, instead of giving back some of it, you invest that in protecting a large part of your exclusive economic zone, which is the 30%. So that's the deal that was made.
If you look back over the last 10 years, in terms of the climate change and its effects on the Seychelles, worst case scenario and the best case scenario if the area is protected?
Yeah. So the worst case scenario is that the low-lying areas of Seychelles, including where we are and all the small coral islands, are flooded. And if they're not flooded permanently, they'll be flooded intermittently, like we've seen here. Best case scenario is that the emissions are put under control and we can continue to adapt to climate change. Right now, adaptation is very difficult.
So let's look at the damage that has been done so far as a result of climate change, and looking back maybe over the last 10 years or so. How much have the temperatures risen in the Indian Ocean?
Well, the Indian Ocean is the smallest ocean, and therefore it stores a lot of heat. The Indian Ocean, new papers have shown that the Indian Ocean has more heat stored than any other ocean. And what we call these heat waves are actually increasing in the Indian Ocean. And in the Western Indian Ocean, where we are, where the Seychelles is located, that's the most increase that they are seeing. So these marine heat waves are increasing because the ocean is storing a lot of heat. And also when the heat is dissipated, it forms into storms and cyclones. So we will see, or we have seen already, that storm events are increasing. Okay? Cyclonic type activities are increasing. And the Seychelles, which is not inside the so-called cyclonic belt, is being affected by more cyclonic type activities. So that's very, very serious. And the heat also stored there affects fisheries, it affects coral reefs. In these tropical islands, coral reefs are very important for many, many reasons. For food, for protection, for tourism, etc., because they form our beaches, for example. So heat destroys coral reefs. They bleach the coral reefs. And that's a crazy thing that most people in other countries don't understand, that climate change is actually real. I see it in front of me every day.
So when you look at the clearest indication, because you see it in front of you
Yes.
every day, where is the clearest indication of damage? If you can pinpoint
Yes.
one single thing.
Fine. So here we are in the sanctuary at Roshkaima, which is managed by Nature Seychelles. It's the only urban managed wetland in Seychelles. It's right here, surrounded by urban area. And at the back of me was the site of an organic garden. It was the first real organic garden in Seychelles. We were experimenting with climate smart agriculture here as well to see if we could manage to grow things in this very low-lying area. A year and a half ago, we had extremely strong tides, unusually strong tides, and a storm surge, which drove the sea in here and destroyed this entire garden. So there's no garden left. We removed everything, and there's too much salt right now in the soil to grow anything. So this is something that, again, people may not understand, that if you look at the main islands of Mahe, the granite hills, remnants of a lost continent, but the areas where most of the population is centered and most of the development, including a lot of the agriculture, is very low-lying. It's what we call a plateau. And that is the most sensitive to climate change. All our infrastructure, including our rescue infrastructure, fire infrastructure, oil and gas storage, and so forth, are here in this low-lying area. A little bit of increase in the sea level, plus the storms that I'm seeing are increasing in frequency and magnitude, will destroy all this. So we are really living in very dire times.
So you also manage the Cousin Island Special Reserve, which was recently recognized as one of the world's great conservation stories. Now, tell us about that.
Yeah, so Cousin Island was a unique event. It was purchased in 1968, and if you can imagine 1968 in terms of world history, there was the Vietnam War which was ending, there were riots in Paris, there were all kinds of things happening. 1968, this conservation organization called BirdLife International purchased this island to save one bird, the Seychelles warbler, which was then the world's rarest bird. An incredible event. And in purchasing this island, they didn't know that they would save so many other birds, reptiles, even the sea around it. So that's why it became one of the world's great conservation success stories. Today we manage it, and it continues to be an ecotourism destination, a very popular ecotourism destination. And Kuza is also recognized as one of the few nature reserves in the world that can actually run itself through the revenues it earns from ecotourism.
So as a conservationist and environmentalist, what do you think the world can learn from the Seychelles?
I think the world can learn that you can actually punch above your weight, that even as one of the smallest countries in the world with a microeconomy, you can actually preserve the environment. It takes leadership, it takes commitment, it takes a community, but it also takes resources, and that's what we need. We need money, because we can't generate all the money we need ourselves.
All right. Dr. Vimal Shah, thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you. So what impact has climate change had on the fishing industry in the Seychelles? Well, I'm joined by Keith Andre. He's the chairman of the Fishermen and Boat Owners Association. Keith, thank you very much for speaking to us today. What role does the fisheries industry play in the economy of the Seychelles?
The fisheries play a very important role. We are, in fact, a second pillar of the economy. The contribution is not only towards food security, but also we have a big export of tuna. We are one of the most important tuna fishing ports of the Southwest Indian Ocean. So the fishing is very, very important for this country's economy.
So the fishing is very important for the, the economy of this country. How is the deal, the 30% deal by the government and the Conservancy to protect the oceans, how is that affecting the fishing industry?
Obviously, this 30% came as a shock to the fishing community, because obviously it's a fisherman that is feeling the impact directly, because we are being told that we cannot no longer use the fishing zones that we have been operating in the past years. So now we find ourselves restrained to a smaller area of the EEZ, and obviously we hope that this initiative is something that is sincere, because often we've seen such initiatives come out whereby for the sole purpose of pushing out people out of zones whereby tourism and other industries have interest. So I'm hoping this one is really purely conservation based and not only a move to push people out, because that's how it feels to us fishermen right now.
So there is also a big concern about the impact of climate change on the fisheries industry. What's your view on that? What has been the impact of climate change on the fisheries industry?
I mean, as fishermen, we've been talking about this for a long time, even before the word climate change started going around in media. I mean, we are the first ones to feel this impact, because we are there every day. We've seen the water temperature rise, we've seen the current changes, we've seen species just being displaced. So we've been talking about this for a long time. And finally, we are quite happy that the world is taking attention, has actually caught the world's attention to this. And we hope that more is done in the sense to actually limit the climate change impact on small coastal communities, because we are the ones that are directly affected by high water level rise, by extreme storms and rains and all this. So we are the ones. I mean, our fishermen started talking about this a long time ago, because we found out that our traditional fishing grounds were no longer productive. So we had to go further and further out looking for new fishing grounds, and that was the first call out, and that was done many, many years ago. But as I say, we are happy now that the world's attention is towards this, and we hope that we can all work together to make the change that is needed in that sense.
So the world's attention has caught on to this, but from your side as the fishing industry, what is it you would like to see?
Okay, first of all, I would like to see we have lots of overfishing, and that is not only climate change, but lots of fishing effort is going up above the roof, and that is also pushing the species to being overexploited. So as a fisherman, I would like to see policies in place that would actually limit the damage that is being done currently, and also that all come together, because right now we have different groups, initiatives working in different directions, all trying to get one objective. So we should all put our resources together and work towards this initiative. And I would also like to see more consultation from, because often we're trying to look for solutions at the top level, and we forget that the people at the lower level, we have experience, we have empirical knowledge. You should use this, because the people of the earth has existed for many, many thousands of years, and it was only recently that we started seeing all these changes. This is because of the Industrial Revolution. But people before that were managing the resources, were exploiting resources responsibly. So we are looking now at science-based solutions, but we should also not forget the logical side of life, how people live, and traditional ways of life, artisanal ways of life, that is not having big impact on the ecosystems. This is what we should be looking for. This is what we should be promoting.
Keith, thank you very much for that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And that's all we have time for this week on this special edition of Talk Africa. A big thank you to all my guests. Remember, you can follow this conversation on our social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter and YouTube. And join us again next week for more Talk Africa. From me, Beatrice Marshall, from the beautiful island of the Seychelles, it's bye-bye.